welcome to the program. Now, the government is now warning that urgent measures need to be taken immediately to address the country's ballooning wage bill that currently stands at just about 500 billion shillings, if you like, half of the national budget. And this emerged as President Uhuru Kenyatta was speaking at the opening of a national dialogue on a debate on that particular issue. And of course, we do have that report in detail that will be coming a little later. But now let's go to what is happening regarding Transparency International and what they think about devolution.
I see no problem. I see no tough war. I see no supremacy battle. We are committed as Senate to do our job and do it to the best of our abilities with the interest of Kenyans at heart. And we will not be diverted. Our attention will not be diverted by people trying to belittle us, and say, oh, we are looking for relevance for yourselves. We have heard those kind of things, but we will not be intimidated.
These tough wars are down to the fact that the national government does not want devolution to succeed or to be smooth.
It's not even a war. It's just a comedy, a theater, and anything you may think about it. And we can ask, are the national leaders serious? Are they really serious in trying to develop devolution?
Being described as a farce, what devolution in the country has allegedly become. But let's look at the situation on our roads. 5 people died last night following an accident along the busy Nairobi-Mombasa highway. The midnight accident involving a lorry and a pickup occurred at the Vista area near Manzoni Lodge. It still remains unclear what exactly caused the accident. The driver of the lorry sustained injuries and is being treated at the Machakos District Hospital. From the Machakos accident to yet another tragic one. This time along the Meru-Nanyuki highway, one person died on the spot after a trailer overtaking on a no overtaking zone dragged a canter off the road, causing it to roll several times. 3 others suffered serious injuries in the early morning crash. The truck driver was taken into police custody and is yet to be arraigned in court. Just a day earlier, 14 people died in a road accident along the Eldoret-Nakuru highway.
Tunazii wale wanaoendesha magari aswa mwendo wa usiku wa uangalifu, na kama haoni mbele itakuwa ni hakuna haja afanye overtaking kwa sehemu kama hii.
Away from Meru, Bungoma County leaders now want the Ministry of Education to take action on education officials and school heads in the regions that performed poorly in the national examinations. Bungoma Governor Kenneth Lusaka and Senator Moses Wetangula says dwindling education standards in the county need immediate intervention. The leaders expressed their anger over poor performance of former academic giants like Friends School Kamusinga, Lugulu Girls and the Kababe Boys, warning that time is up for non-performing schools and school heads in that county.
And as leaders, na nyinyi wenyewe, I think when we make radical decisions, stand by us. Because some decisions must be made kama education standards katika Bungoma hii itaenda mbele. If some teachers have overstayed and are not delivering, I think we must just make a decision on what we should do. There's no way Friends School, Kamusinga, Lugulu can be going down and we are watching. We shall all be condemned together. So we must make decisions that are going to help us move forward.
Bungoma ndiyo ilikuwa ya mwisho kwa mtihani. Among all those, hata Samburu ilitushinda. With the challenges of drought and hunger, Turkana ilitushinda. Honestly, we have to wake up.
Well, and austerity has been the biggest word this weekend. The government is trying to cut costs coming from a 4-day week cabinet retreat. And the message from the president, his deputy, has been let's cut costs. The president took a 20% cut, his deputy also, and promising a 10% cut for his cabinet. But just how are people taking this? Now, this uproar is coming in the wake of an early morning discussion earlier on today opened by the president to discuss just how will Kenya cut down the over half a trillion they spent on wage bill. Now, Ben Kitili is at the KICC to bring us the very latest regarding that particular discussion this morning. Ben.
Yes, Bonnie, we are still here at the Kenyatta International Convention Center where the president has just launched the national debate on the public wage bill, a national conference that is being hosted by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. It is still ongoing. The president and his deputy and his cabinet secretaries, that is Anne Wagoro for Devolution and Planning, as well as Henry Rotich for National Treasury, have just left the building, but the conference is still ongoing. And one of the biggest sound bites we've heard from the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, is on that pay cut, the decision on Friday where the president and his deputy announced that they are taking a 20% pay cut with a 10% pay cut for his cabinet. And we have seen all throughout the weekend some members of parliament, lawmakers, some senators and members of parliament also saying that they want to take a pay cut in solidarity with the president, obvious. So the president has extended that, saying that parastatals, state corporations have to conform to that particular decision, saying that failure to do that, action will be taken against them. Also going to the extent of saying that they'd rather have the state corporations, the people in those top jobs, the so-called fat cats in those state corporations, go to court, be awarded that money, and the government pays them off, then hires other people, probably younger people, willing to take up those positions and on a lower job scales. That is what the president is saying. Just talking to some pundits here, some financial analysts here at this conference, they say that it seems like an appeal from the president, but the tone was out of, it is kind of a must. But just also addressing this, the same conference, Sarah Serem, the chair of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, did say that it is on a voluntary basis, the pay cuts. It is not a must. Nobody is being forced to take a pay cut. It is on a voluntary basis. That is some of the messages that are coming out of this conference. The deputy president and the president coming out to say that the message is that it is a conversation that needs to be heard by Kenyans. Kenyans need to talk about this particular issue of the public sector wage bill, which currently stands at roughly around 500 billion Kenya shillings. That is, as we've told you before, more than 50% of the total government revenue. That is, of course, way above the 35% that is the international standards. So that is what is happening here. We are still having discussions, are still ongoing, deliberations from various quarters. We have heard what the executive arm of government has had to say, and we are still hearing those deliberations from different quarters, including the private sector. We've had a very interesting presentation from the Devolution and Planning Secretary, Anne Wagoro, who voiced a number of questions about just how to measure this, how to curb this burgeoning public wage bill against productivity by public officers. She raised a number of questions that she posed to the delegates here in this conference on the public wage bill to just seek to answer or seek to get closer to answers to those questions. And one of those very important questions that she raised was, should the public wage bill be gauged against inflation or against productivity? Very important questions that we shall be hoping to get answers to as this conference continues. There is a second part of this conference that is a debate in the afternoon at around 5:30 p.m. We shall be bringing you that. We are here at the Kenyatta International Convention Center to just bring you this national conference on the public wage bill. It is the start of a very important conversation as Kenya seeks to make strides forward in terms of economic growth.
Just before we let you go, there has been a lot of conversation about cutting or reducing the wage bill, and government is taking pay cuts. But also from economists all over talking about also arresting wastages in other areas of the government. Do we have that kind of conversation in that meeting Do we have that kind of conversation of arresting other form of wastages other than just taking pay cuts?
Yeah, sure, Bonnie. We have been able to talk to some financial analysts who are part of this conference, and they say that it is a good gesture coming from the executive arm of government and some lawmakers taking that pay cut and maybe encouraging others on that job group 5, it is called, in the public sector, to take a pay cut. But they say it's not enough. They're saying, look, it is a good gesture, but it is not enough. There's a lot that needs to be done to cut that, to be able to curb that public, the ballooning public wage bill. They say that, as you say, Bonnie, there's a lot of wastage in government offices. There's a lot of corruption. Those are some of the things that needs to be addressed. I was talking to Garethi Muremi, a financial analyst, and he was telling me that there's something in particular that is called duplication of roles with the new county governments that needs to be addressed in some key ministries some of whose functions have been devolved, and there needs to be that conversation to be able to separate, to be able to pay people for what they are doing and not for idling, and that is said to be able to cut that wage bill from 50% of the national revenue to 35% or closer to that figure. Bonnie.
Ben, final question. Sarah Serem, of course, has asked those very important questions, and we do understand that these proposals to have pay cuts are coming from the government side. What is the Commission exactly proposing other than this? Because this is coming from the government, but what is Serem saying going forward?
So what Sarah Serem, the chair of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, is saying is that he's asking Kenyans to voluntarily, capable Kenyans to voluntarily take the pay cuts. But now what she's saying is that it is this conference, it is a larger process that she hopes will be able to answer some of those questions as to what needs to be done and what will be done at the end of the day to be able to reduce the public wage bill. She does not have answers at the moment. She just says the Salaries Commission has been on the firing line in front of many government organizations, including Parliament, for the salaries debate. So she's saying that the Salaries Commission is just continuing to blow that whistle to make sure to bring it brings Kenya's attention to this issue, which says it is unsustainable. The public wage bill is unsustainable. There is no money that is left for Kenya as a country to make forward strides in terms of economic development. So she is saying that she's looking for answers from Kenyans, from stakeholders, from the government, from leaders, from the public sector, from everyone to be able to answer that question and slash that public wage bill. But she says at the end of this conversation, at the end of this conference, which then the second phase moves to the counties and to different people, she says at the end of it all, she will be hoping that Kenya will be having some answers as to how they can slash this public wage bill.
All right, Ben Kitili, many thanks for covering that for us. Ben Kitili still is on standby at the KICC. We do understand there's another session slated for evening, and KTN is on top of that to give you the deliberations of that particular meeting. But remaining with the austerity saga, the government is now warning that urgent measures need to be taken immediately to address the country's ballooning wage bill that currently stands at just about 500 billion shillings, half of the national budget. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta, while opening the national dialogue on the public wage bill organized by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, said the country needs to make tough decisions now if meaningful development is to be achieved.
Today, 56% of ordinary revenue is used to pay salaries. It is projected that as things go, or at the rate at which it is growing, it will go to 64% in another 2 years. As we are talking today, 74% of our budget goes to recurrent expenditure. Only 26% remains for development. Ladies and gentlemen, if we have to take this country to a middle-level income economy by the year in the next decade, we must up our game.
We must discuss this agenda. Because failure to discuss this agenda means that tomorrow we may not have a country where our teachers have the opportunity to teach our children. So we must discuss this. And we must discuss it in an open, frank, and honest manner. Because all we are seeking is solutions. Because the truth is, and we will not hide from it, is that where we are, we cannot sustain. And tomorrow, my political opponent will stand up and say, huyu anaongea uongo. Ni sawa, hiyo ni haki yake, and it is his right, and they are right, because we are a democratic nation. But that still will not take us away from the truth. Because even if my opponents were standing here, they would be addressing you on the same issue. So I would rather we say, let us take a non-partisan position on this. And let us say we want to discuss this for the national good, for the interest of the country, for the interest of our children, for the interest of future generations, also for the interest of present-day generation.
Right, it is spirited efforts there by the head of state trying to call for,
bipartisan agreements, excuse me, to find a solution to this problem.
Right, a lot of financial heads have been talking about, should we peg this wedge bill to inflation or to productivity? But the bigger debate is going forward. The outcry in the public is there's so much wastage other than what we're trying to cut. I mean, looking at what people are writing on Twitter, guys are saying it is not just about cutting 20%, 10%. It's about going for
finding the loopholes and covering them.
Yeah, higher level corruption and things like that. And we did ask our viewers on our Facebook, Twitter handle, that is at KTN Newsdesk, what their thought was about the government's austerity measures. And there is one thought from Emmanuel Dennis. Let me try to get it. Right, he said, sitting allowances for parliamentarians and parliamentary committees are part of the reasons we have a high wage bill.
Obviously, this is a very important discussion that will continue in subsequent bulletins, so do stay tuned to that, and we'd love to hear from you, so keep sending us your thoughts on at KTN Newsdesk. Right. Let's head over to Mombasa, though, where one person was killed last evening at the Mombasa port after a docking ship lost control and hit a crane. A piece of the crane then crashed into the victim, leading to his death.
Well, the victim, who was among others who were waiting for the vessel to dock in order to offload its cargo, is said to have panicked following a crash and jumped into the ocean.
However, luck was not on his side after a part of the crane that was hit dropped into the ocean, and that is what eventually hit him. Eyewitnesses say that the man, who is believed to be a good swimmer, plunged into the waters and emerged safely after a few seconds, only to then be hit by the falling metal piece from the crumbling crane mast on the head.
Kilipompiga hivi krino ikawa naenda sasa. Na hii meli propela yake inafanya kazi, maji inasukuma naenda hivi. So kuna option mbili. Anaweza kuwa ameenda na maji ama amefinywa na crane.
Right, it's really sad. I mean, trying to read that story, off a script on Hollywood or something. It's too dramatic.
Yeah, let me tell you what else will probably be dramatic. It is the 5-part series called Juveniles Detained, and as we've been promising you, beginning tonight during our primetime bulletin starting 9 p.m. We begin the series Jailed Juveniles. Wilson Buru will be taking you through the lives of young boys, some of them as young as 15, who have somehow gotten themselves into a world of crime, and he's going to be looking at that and their rehabilitation process. So make sure you catch the series beginning tonight, as we mentioned, a 5-part series, 9 p.m. and it goes on until Friday. So don't miss out on it.
Samba kidogo, sasa katupea pesa. Sasa katika ile kumrushia kamgonga hapa kaanguka tu.
They've terrorized neighborhoods.
Nitonde kichwa chini. Ukibeba kichwa kitakukata.
And ruined lives of little ones.
Kama alimuasa kitambo sababu facility membrane alikuwa amebreak kabisa.
KTN goes behind bars and into the minds of jailed juveniles. How did they end up in prison?
and from broken homes.
Are you comfortable with us letting him out?
9 o'clock is when you join Wilson Buru for that very incredible work of journalism. Now, elsewhere, along with Turkana, Ukambani region has been synonymous with severe water and food shortages. For the first time in decades, Ukambani is not hitting the headlines of a famine. KTN's Angel Katusia has just returned from that part of the country and tells us why.
It's a rare sight for farmers in Kitui. Under the unforgiven sun, harvesting is ongoing, and for retiree Matuko Moyanga, it's a sight he gladly welcomes us to.
Mahindi, maragwe, maasi kidogo, maembe, papai wiko, na machungwa kidogo.
While the country expected the same old tale of drought, famine, and death from this part of the country, farmers here were busy counting their blessings.
Mvua haikuwa mbaya. Ilikuwa tu mvua ya kiasi, lakini tulipata mavuno.
But it's not just the rain that Matuko is thankful for.
Huwa kuna wakati tunaitwa na watu wa agriculture. Zile field wanaita field demonstrations. Anatuonyesha, kisha tukifuatilia kidogo tunaona ni neno yake ni nini, maana yake wanamaanisha nini, kwa maana tunapata kitu, ndio tunaona kuna faida ndani yake. Lakini wengi hawaendi, wanasema tu hiyo ni mwitano wa wale watu wanaitwa na chifu, wanaitwa na DC, na hakuna kitu DC anaeleza, hakuna nini, wachana na watu.
Agricultural institutes have been encouraging farmers in drought-prone Kitui County to plant fast-maturing crops. Despite low rainfall recorded here, from the short rains, farmers still harvested sufficient produce.
Kuna mbegu za mvua kidogo kama vile tunaita katumani.
Underneath this silver lining for the Ukambani farmers hangs a heavy cloud that still sees hundreds going hungry. Farm laborer Mwathe Wanza knows this all too well.
Mvua ilikuweko, chenye tulikuwa nacho ni umaskini wa kibinafsi. Juu sasa wengine hatukuwa na vifaa za kikazi kama mbegu, pesa na kutengeneza hizo vitu.
In Mutiti constituency, there's a sense of entitlement from the residents. They say the government owes them much more.
Tungekuwa tunaweza saidiwa na vitu kama mabegu, ama kama vijana hizi vikundi tuwe tukipewa pesa ya kufanya kazi, tunaweza saidika.
But these challenges Mwathe speaks of are just the tip of the iceberg. Lower Eastern area has to live with the curse of insufficient rainfall, and there's only one thing that farmers can peg their hopes on: irrigation. Umar Dam in Kitui Central constituency was a government project that was not only meant to ease the domestic water burden in this area, but was also to enable farmers to irrigate their land to curb the recurring food crisis.
In 1994, a proposal to construct this dam to deal with the water crisis in this region was approved by the then water minister, but it was until 2009 when the then water minister Charity Ngilu commissioned officially the construction of this dam. But for the last 2 years, no construction work has been going on in this site.
At the site, incomplete structures, rusty metal meant for construction, heavy machinery all rotting away as the residents grapple with water scarcity. In 2010, the then Water Minister Charity Ngilu accused her rivals of stalling the multi-million shillings project. There were also investigations into allegations of corruption during procurement for the construction of the dam. Fast forward to 2014, and the residents are still waiting for the dam.
Tulikuwa tunaona wakitutengenezea hiyo dam itatusaidia sisi watu hapa wa hii area, kwa sababu tuna shida ya maji.
Residents here long to sing a new song, that of a food-secure county. But until the government ensures that the dam is completed, the same old song of food scarcity and ravaging drought in Ukambani will continue to persist. Angel Katusia, KTN.
The Association of Kenyan Insurers has rolled out a program targeting the youth in a bid to deepen insurance penetration in the country. The misconceptions and lack of information about insurance has kept penetration at a paltry 3.16%. Now, according to a market survey commissioned by the association last year, insurance uptake among the youth is very low due to lack of information, limited resource, and information on insurance products with strong appeal to them and high premiums charged. The survey also reveals that the youth view insurance with superstition and fears as a result of negativity created in sales persuasion that associates life products with death. Thank you. Right, I'm just worried about the youth who associate insurance with superstition. That's a bit far. But in sports now, Western Stima beat Top Fry All-Stars 2-1 in a Kenyan Premier League match played at the Afra Stadium in Nakuru on Sunday afternoon. All-Stars could have opened the scoring as early as the second minute after Daniel Kamau was tripped inside the box, winning his side a penalty, but Western Stima custodian Ben Roberts Mandela spurred the penalty away. Fred Shimoyo opened the scoring for the visitors, capitalizing on a defensive mishap to tap in the opener after 22 minutes. Now, All-Stars equalized in the 36th minute through Erastes Mwaniki. Job Muse scored the winner for Stima in the 69th minute to ensure they return home with the maximum points as they condemned Top Fry to basement of the league globe. Right, we're just about to wrap up this bulletin, and on our official Twitter page at KTN Newsdesk, we asked you your thoughts concerning the government's latest move to inject austerity measures into the economy, and we have quite a number of thoughts. There are some we can read here, some we cannot, but there is Catherine Kiobutungi, and she says, I hope the participants are not picking allowances for a conference to reduce the wage bill.
Well, this is obviously one of those topics that inspires heated debate, as it should.
Right.
It's also very polarizing. The people who believe in the austerity measures are really backing them, and those who don't are tearing the government into shreds.
Right. There is yet another view here that says State House had a budget of 4,084,000, rather 4 billion.
4 billion?
Right, 4 billion.
We can't read numbers.
4 billion more than the annual salaries of the MPs, senators put together. Trim that by 10% to get a feel of exactly how much they're cutting.
Well, there are a lot of figures that are emerging thanks to this conference. And so we'll find out later on in this evening what exactly they mean and how it will affect the economy.
Just before we go, there's an important one coming from David Kimondo on this wage bill KE hashtag. And David Kimondo says the world's average salary is 125,800. That is according to the International Labour Organization. Yes, Kenya shillings. So that tells you where we are. There's an LMAO at the end of that tweet.
Right. It's a heavy morning. It's been a heavy morning. It's likely going to be an even more complicated evening. So let's inject a little bit of light into this day by giving you the did you know fact. I'm going to give you two because you've been away for so long. I'm sure you've missed them. Did you know a man survived a fire and the sinking of a ship in 1871? So as you can imagine, he was very emotionally scarred. 41 years later, he decides, you know what, I'm finally able to overcome this fear and the nightmares, and so he decided to sail again. Unfortunately, the ship that he went on sank because it was the Titanic.
Fate or fate?
I don't know what you want to call it. And then the second one, I know you like this one.
All right.
Did you know that when a hen lays an egg...
This is not useful. Go ahead.
It rolls it at least 50 times to make sure the yolk does not get attached to the shell.
It's actually useful.
That's useful.
It is.
That's useful.
Well, my name is Boni Tunya. This has been KTN Newsdesk. I'll see you again in the evening for business.
My name is Edith Kimani. It's been great to have Boni Tunya back. It's great to have you for your company as well.
Traditional dancers, more Sikh.
Okay, for all of 2 seconds. And then we'll see you later tomorrow, hopefully. Have a good day.